What's the most comforting thing you can think of eating in this weather? How about soup or stew? Either one. The only difference between the two is when you make a stew, you flour the meat. When you cut it in chunks, you roll it in flour and it thickens it up to make more of a stew. Today I'm going to make beef barley. So I'm using a chuck steak, and you can use any kind of meat, but chuck has got a lot more flavor. There's more tender cuts, but there's cross ribs that are really good, but I've chosen to do a chuck, so it's going to be really good. I do add all the regular vegetables that you add when you make soups, like carrots, celery, onions, garlic, and I have a little other ingredient that I'm going to show you. So I hope you enjoy this. So we're going to start with our vegetables. We're going to do like probably 4 or 5 cloves of garlic, depending on, you know, how much garlic you like. I have probably 5 cloves here, because I think garlic is one of the most flavorful ingredients you can add. And it just depends on, you know, what you're making, but anything that has garlic in it to me is amazing. And we're going to do probably about 4 tablespoons of parsley. I have Italian parsley here. It doesn't matter what kind of parsley, but I use Italian quite a bit, so. Now we're going to just place all the major veggies, not the parsley. We won't put the parsley until later. There is probably a little parsley in here, but the onions, the carrots, the celery, and the garlic are all going to go. Yeah, we're going to sauce. So the first thing we're going to do is add our vegetables. We have the celery, carrots, onions, and a little garlic in here, and we're going to saute these about 5 minutes. This is how you want your vegetables, where they're kind of soft, and now they're done. Now you're going to remove them temporarily from the pan. Okay, after you remove the vegetables, you will have a little bit of olive oil residue left, but you're going to probably put another like tablespoon in, just a little bit. And then we're going to add like 3 strips of bacon. I cut them in half because they're very thick. I don't know if you have what kind of bacon, but this is pretty thick. So I'm going to add 3 strips cut in half. And I'm going to saute these in the oil until they're cooked. And that should take, you know, probably under 10 minutes. So the next step is cutting up our beef in chunks. About like this. So we're almost done. And then what we're going to do after we season the meat in salt and pepper and a little garlic powder, we're going to sear the meat in the bacon grease. Okay, after we've seared the meat on both sides for a few minutes, then we're going to add some stout. It could be any kind of beer or dark beer stout. We're just going to put it all in. This gives it a lot of flavor. So we're going to stir everything in just like that and let it simmer for a little bit with the vegetables back in. And then we're going to add about 2 cups of beef stock, and we'll add a little bit of water to that as well. And we're going to cook this probably 2.5 hours. So at this point, we're going to add our herbs. We're going to add like a half a teaspoon of thyme. We're going to add a little rosemary, and we're going to add our parsley. We're going to mix everything in and put a little more water in this. And now it's going to stew for about 2 hours, but the last hour, we're going to add the barley. The bacon is mainly used to flavor the meat, but I add half of it in, and I eat the other half. And you're going to put about 2 cups of beef broth, which also has a lot of vegetables in it, in the broth that they cooked it in. And you're going to add probably a cup of water. But you just have to look at your own, soup, stews, and see how it is. So you will first bring it to a boil. Then you'll put a lid like this halfway on. And then you'll turn it down to like a simmer, like a 3 on your stove, and let it cook for 2 hours or 2.5. The soup is ready. I just put some cornbread in the oven, so I'm just waiting for the cornbread to be ready before I serve it up. I didn't use the whole roast because it was a very large roast. So you're going to want to use between 1 pound and 1.5 pounds. It was a lot of meat, and I wasn't able to find a smaller roast, so I just bought that one. Also, while you're cooking this stew or soup, you want to check on it and you want to taste it while it's cooking. As you noticed, I added some fresh rosemary back in, and when I added the barley in, and I had to add a little more thyme. So you need to check it and add more as you go along. And it basically is, everything is kind of to taste. So I probably had about 1.5 teaspoons of the thyme, and I had probably 4 sprigs of rosemary, and I had to add more salt. So you do need to check this as you're cooking it. You don't just drop everything in and wait till it's done. You have to taste it and make sure that the flavor is there. That's one of the main things about cooking, is that it's all about having the right flavor. So I'm going to serve this up in just a moment. Soup's done. It's soup now. So it's just the perfect consistency. It's still a soup, but somebody could call it a stew because it's thick, but it's still soupy. But there's just a lot in it. There's a lot of meat, there's a lot of vegetables and barley, so it's real hearty. So let's try it. Super, super yummy. Very hearty, very, very good flavor. And I kept tasting it as I went along and kept adding what I needed, and that's really important to do. Very, very hearty and flavorful. The meat's very tender too. It took 2.5 hours. It actually was done in 2 hours. But I let it simmer just a little bit longer. So Here's our nice hot cornbread. So I'm going to sit down, have a bowl of my soup, and a slice of my cornbread. I hope you try this recipe. I think you'll love it. Thank you.